Okay, Latin 2, get ready for your lesson. As I explained in the introduction, you have a PDF of the text. It has vocabulary provided. It's always a good idea to attempt your own translation first and then compare your notes to what this lesson is going to present. Here's what I'll do. I'm going to read the Latin and then I'm going to explain it. Deinde omnes in eam partem thermarum intraverunt, ubi balneum maximum erat. Now, before we begin, let's just talk for a moment. Why are there two different words that seem to mean bath? Let me get my pen ready here. Okay, here's the answer. Therma, bath. Therma is referring to the whole facility. In other words, I'm talking about the building called the baths. Balneum refers to the actual bathtub itself. So you enter a door, okay, and that's a therma, okay? But a balneum is the bathtub itself. Deinde, then. Omnes, everyone. What did everyone do? Intraverunt. Then everyone entered. Now, worth reviewing. In villa. If this text had long marks, there would be a long mark right here. Because in villa, meaning in the house, this is ablative. However, if you have accusative after the word in, it means into. So in villam means into the house. Then everyone entered in eam partem, into that part. That part of what? Thermarum, that part of the baths. That part of the baths, comma, ubi, where ubi balneum maximum erat, literally, where a very large bath, understood, tub, was. Always feel free to tweak this in the direction of a better English translation, where there was a very large bathtub. Quintus, comma, principe secutus, comma, circumspectavit et attonitus. Now, this is going to go on to a quote. Quintus is going to say something, but guess what, people? The most important thing, remember right before we went into this distance learning, one of the last lessons we had in the room together was the deponent. When you look up a verb and you see an OR, this first point, it means deponent. So let's let's review what that means. You look up a verb. It has just an O. Well, guess what? That is an active verb. But if it has an OR, that is a deponent verb. And here's what it means. If it's deponent, look at this, folks. 1, 2, 3, and then the English. So the dictionary gives you 3 forms and then the English meaning. Here's what those 3 forms are for a deponent verb. The present tense I form, sequor, means I follow. The second form is the infinitive, sequi, to follow. The third form, if it's a deponent, is the past participle, secutus. But then here's the key, people. The past participle of a deponent verb is translated actively, having followed. And if it's active, having followed, there can be an object. Having followed the dog, having followed the friend. In this case, it's going to be having followed the chieftains. Okay? However, for an active verb, if it has an O, the past participle of an active verb, and notice here, by the way, there are 4 forms. An active verb has 4 forms in the dictionary. Mito, Present tense, I send. Mittere, infinitive, to send. Misi is the I form of the perfect tense. I sent. And again, the fourth form of an active verb is the past participle, having been sent. The past participle of an active verb is passive, sent, having been sent. The past participle of a deponent verb is active, secutus, having followed. Having followed the chieftains. So what did Quintus do, having followed the chieftains? Circumspectavit, looked around, and astonished et attonitus. Now, as I told you, now there's going to be a quote. Here it is. Hae thermae inquit maiore sunt quam thermae Pompeianae. These baths, he said, are bigger than the Pompeian baths. And by the way, that's saying a lot. The Pompeian baths were nice, but Cogidubnus, with the help of Roman craftsmen, has created something even better than what they had in Pompeii. Okay, next sentence. Servi magna cum difficultate cogidubnum in balneum demittere coiperunt. Think it through for a moment. The slaves. Now, what did the slaves do? I hope by now you're very accustomed, after you think you have your subject, nominative plural, servi, you run to the end of the sentence very frequently to go find your actual main verb. The slaves coiperunt, began. Now this verb is a very weird verb. It only occurs in the past tense. In Latin, when you want to say you began something, you use the verb coipi, I began, coiperunt, they began, servi coiperunt, the slaves began. In the present tense, you use the verb incipio, I begin. What did the slaves begin to do? They began demittere, to lower cogidubnus, accusative ending, therefore he is the object of your verb. The slaves began to lower cogidubnus. Look, people, look, we just talked about this. In balneum. In plus accusative means into. The slaves began to lower cogidubnus into the bathtub. Now, what's left in the sentence is the manner with which they began to lower cogidubnus into the bathtub. Magna cum difficultate, with big difficulty. Very common, by the way, when you have a preposition, cum, herewith, there is an adjective and a noun. The adjective comes first, then the preposition, then the noun. Maybe you've heard the phrase summa cum laude. When people graduate, summa cum laude means with great praise. But now, magnus means big, but sometimes it makes sense to use the word big, like you talk about a big house, that's fine, magna villa. But what would be a better English translation? Instead of big difficulty, great difficulty. Rex principibus mandata dabat. Now, worth always reviewing here. A ending can be accusative, but on a neuter noun, it can even be nominative. When you have a neuter noun, verbum, the plural of a neuter is always an a, okay? So verbum is word, verba, words. And so if mandatum means command, mandata means commands. The king was giving, dabat, imperfect ending, but, was giving commands. Who was he giving the commands to? Dative plural ending, principibus. The king was giving commands to the chieftains. Next sentence. Principes libertos suos vituperabant, comma, liberti servos. Now this is going to be one of those sentences that we first encountered way back. Remember that Britanni cibum laudabant, Romani vinum. The British were praising the food, comma, the Romans the wine. Understood, you have to resupply the verb. So what's happening here, the chieftains were cursing. Who were they cursing? Their freedmen. Okay? But what's left here, we have another nominative and another accusative. And we are going to want to resupply the verb. The verb here that we already used, the chieftains were cursing their freedmen, we're going to reuse it. The freedmen, understood, were cursing their slaves. We're going to even resupply, by the way. The word suos, we don't use it here. Okay, this is where it would have been. It's not here. But we're going to resupply it. So the chieftains were cursing their freedmen. The freedmen were cursing their slaves. Tandem, rex, comma, e balneo egressus, comma, vestimenta, comma, quae servi tolerant, comma, induit. Now, why did I actually say out loud all those commas? Because they matter a lot, okay? If you were to try to start translating this sentence word for word, you would like say, oh, this makes no sense. Well, the fact is, it makes perfect sense, but we want to use the commas to our advantage. So take a look at this. I am going to circle this information that comes between commas. And now, here's what I want you to always remember about Latin. Right now, what is outside the commas, that's the sentence. The actual sentence, and the pieces are here for you, you can translate. Finally, the king put on garments. Okay? This is the actual sentence. Finally, the king put on garments. The rest of it are clauses. And if we don't keep track of what the main sentence is, those clauses could get in our way. Finally, the king. Here comes a clause. Egredior. I really hope you're looking here and you say, oh, we just talked about this. Look, it's a deponent. I know what that means. A deponent verb means that the third form, the past participle, is translated actively. Having left. Now, the preposition a means out of, and you probably don't have to translate it here. Having left the bathtub. But remember, again, I want to call you back to this point. The main sentence is right here, people. Finally, the king put on garments. Okay? That's the main sentence. Finally, the king put on garments. Now, all we've added is, finally, the king, having left the bathtub, put on garments. The only thing that's left here, this clause here, this just tells us more about the garments, okay? The sentence is still, finally the king put on garments. The king, having left the bathtub, put on garments. What kind of garments? The garments, quae servi, which the slaves, oh goodness, take a look at this, people. The most irregular verb in the entire Latin language. Look at these four forms. Ferro, I carry. Ferre, to carry. Tuli. What? Tuli is the past tense of Pharaoh? What's going on here? But it is, people. Tuli, I carried. Latus, having been carried. Vestimenta, the garments. Quae servi tolerant, which the slaves had carried. And by the way, pluperfect ending here. Remember, had done the action. tum omnes fonti sacro apropinquavit. Then everyone approached. Now this verb takes a dative object. The endings fonti, that is the dative of a third declension. Sacro is the dative ending of a second declension adjective. Even though it's not the same ending, they go together. Then everyone approached the sacred fountain. Last sentence. Cephalus, comma, qui anxios tremebat, comma, prope fontem stabat, comma, poculum ornatissimum tenens. Again, why do you think I read all those commas? Because they matter. In this case, by the way, let's draw a circle there. That's a clause. And believe it or not, this last bit is a clause. Your main sentence always has to have a real verb in it, okay? Tenens is not a real verb. It's a participle. We'll get to that. Stabat is your main verb. The main thing that Cephalus is doing is stabat. Cephalus, who was trembling anxious, understood anxiously. Why is he trembling anxiously? Let me remind you the story, people. Remember what we read just before we went into distance learning? Cephalus was tasked by Memor, who was tasked by Salvius, to delivering a poisoned cup to Cogidubnus. And guess what? That cup is here. It is a cup with a secret chamber inside it with poison. So when they poured in this case, the water from the sacred fountain that Cogidubnus is supposed to drink and possibly be healed, when they pour that in, the poison is going to then be released. And this cup that Cephalus is holding is full of poison. His job is to hand it to Cogidubnus so that Cogidubnus drinks from it and dies. Why is Salvius doing all this? Well, you're going to find out. Salvius has a plan that after Cogidubnus is dead, he's going to seize all of Cogidubnus's riches. Cephalus, who was trembling, Three, two, one. Cephalus, who was trembling anxiously, was standing near the fountain. Prope fontem stabat. Again, always worth reviewing. The bat ending was doing an action. Holding, always worth reviewing. NSNT equals ing. Holding. What was he holding? Poculum ornatissimum, a very ornate cup. Now, as we know, people, it's ornate on the outside, but it's dangerous on the inside.